So I'll call to order the regular meeting of the Greenmont Water and Sanitation District, September 12th, 6 o'clock. And call the roll. Karen Morgan present.
Dave Wickman. Roger Wendell present.
Tom Hicks present.
Dave Garner present.
We have a quorum. Thank you very much. Does any director have a disclosure to make? Seeing none, move on to approval of additions to deletions from the agenda. Any changes to make?
Yeah, I'd like to add on item 8, follow up on the super majority bylaw.
May I comment on the agenda?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to say, when I put it on the agenda or on the PowerPoint, it's just like, here's all the things I'm working on. And please feel free to have me elaborate more on things you'd like to talk about more. And if there's anything I can shorten up and we really don't need to discuss, please feel free to do that. I serve at the pleasure of the board. So like I said, feel free to direct the conversation any way you'd like.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. So make a motion, please, to add number 8.
I move to add on 8B or whatever. 8.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Director Wendell seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous approval for adding supermajority bylaw. All right. On to public comment. I have nobody in the room. Does anybody online wish to speak? Please raise your hand. See Amara. Mark, can you, yeah, gotcha. Unmute yourself. Thank you.
Thank you. I was originally not planning on speaking this month. However, after the August court hearing date, judgment, assessments, etc., published, I would like to hear from the board why they are making decisions they are regarding our appeal, the whole big sky nightmare. I would like to know why, and others of us as well out here, why you gave up the biggest advantage we have of a jury trial. And I want to hear this from board directors, not from a lawyer. I want to know why you gave up the biggest advantage that we have to hold over the plaintiffs is a jury trial in Jeffco. Secondly, it would be nice to understand, we had evidence to submit and we didn't submit it that would have supported our case in the appeal. And the judge gave you a gift asking you for that evidence. Hey, you didn't submit this. Why don't you submit this? And yet I'm hearing talk of settlement. Oh, let's not submit it. Let's just do a settlement. So I think the board needs to direct itself to the constituents and speak to why these decisions that seem to be against our interest are being made. We have evidence that we can provide to win our case. We have the opportunity for a jury trial that if it went that way, we could very likely come out ahead as we did before. And it seems like we're rolling the clock back years to give up, to give in, and to give over to those extraterritorial developers. And a lot of us would like to know why, other than somebody telling you, well, it'll cost money to go to court when we already won and we probably still could. So that's my comment / question for tonight. Thank you so much for hearing me out.
Thank you. And Ludmilla?
Good evening, everyone. I hope everybody's happy. They don't look too happy right now, as usual. I'm glad we're not eating dinner tonight because I'm hungry. And when I see you guys eating, anyway, long story short, I want to say thank you so much for approving the gentleman that was going to look into the ravine. I hope he has a report for us shortly. Thank you. And that's it. Wasn't I nice tonight? You guys take care.
Thank you.
You're always nice, Ludmilla. Thank you very much. And anybody else online, raise your hand. I think that is all. Going and gone. All right, we'll close public comment. And move on to approval of the minutes. We have a long list of minutes. And we have some outstanding changes. Mr. Secretary, how do you propose to proceed?
That's a good question. Could argue that perhaps a lot of these concerns are not real major, but anyway, they are trying to be legal and complete. They're out there. You asked if I could go back and do a red line on these. I suppose I could do that, but it would take some time. And as you know, I had some other projects for this meeting. So that's kind of a judgment call. Has everybody seen these comments I made about the minutes?
My concern is that you had a lot of questions and please rewrite sentences and do all that. So I think it would be preferable to wait on those until you can write what you would like, rather than have somebody else write something that is, as you say, written as clarity. So if you can propose actual changes and we can see those and approve them, I think that would be
Sure.
better than, and I don't believe there's anything to approve since we don't have any other suggested changes. So if you want those changes in there, and I think they're valid,
And Dave, your first wave of changes that came through, those were made.
those are made.
Right.
That are currently in the board packet.
What were the dates on those? What? Okay, these comments are all my comments, aren't they? So is that?
Yeah,
So
I
this-
thought so too.
so this is a little bit of overkill at this point. Or. Well, like for instance, May 9th, we did that before, and actually. And I kind of corrected them, but I went back and looking at them a second time, it's like, well, actually came up with one or two other things, it's like, well, for slight changes, so. I don't know. Amazing.
I do have a question about the one meeting that I chaired when Karen was unavailable. There were several significant audio dropouts, and I wonder if we could get an explanation as to what happened.
We were having issues with this microphone here. That one is now the old microphone. It's been replaced with this one. And we're hoping that it continues to work.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway, thinking about this. If everybody's seen these before, right? It's not before today.
Right.
If you don't have any obvious objections to any of these things, then we can sit there and say, can we approve them with these corrections? And then I can go back and type in the corrections and then go on. Because I think the only issue is this, if we're not on board with these changes, then it's an issue. If the changes are fine, then just go ahead and make them.
In the past, we've done that where you make the motion to accept with, and then you state the changes that you'd like to see, and then.
Okay,
And
so,
then we just have to sign that version.
Yeah, so these don't have specific changes, really. That's what I mean, I agree with you in theory, yes. But it's,
yeah,
like, do we need a new sentence here? Could be clear, I understand what you're saying, but I don't understand how we would be able to
right.
approve that.
Yeah, there were a couple of them where I said the sentence just didn't make any sense. It ought
Right,
to be rewritten. And I suppose I can try my hand at trying to rewrite it.
I didn't go back and look at the May and June meetings to see that these are new.
Well, I know one of my biggest things is like whenever there's a vote that's not unanimous, obviously everybody voted for it.
Right,
But if it's not, then you're supposed to identify who the minority votes are.
And
And it's usually 4-1, you say, and the one nay
Yeah.
was so-and-so. But then, of course, we had a couple votes that were 2-2. And in the record, you say it's a 2-2 tie. Well, it doesn't pass, but theoretically, you're supposed to say who the two were on one side and who the two on the other side were. And I think several of my comments were along those lines.
okay. Well,
So, well, I'll just go to the June 28th, like it says where my attendance was not clear. Did they not include me even though I was here? I mean, I saw that you wrote that, but I didn't, I just figured they would just add me in because I was here.
It was not clear. Reading the minutes, I would say, I don't know the answer.
Okay.
And I have to look at, if I'm from the outside reading these minutes, asking that same question, do I get an answer? I didn't see the answer in the minutes.
Right.
right. I don't see, but that's still a question, and those are ambiguous meetings, so we can't, I don't feel like we can
Okay,
submit them. What I'm hearing is that no minutes are ready for approval at this time.
okay, that's fine.
So if you can,
Well, I thought Sam was
Maybe
saying that we
red
could tentatively approve them with additions. Or are we saying we don't have the additions to do that?
what specifically would you like to do to say the attendance of Hooks was not clear and Attorney Wood's comment is not clear? Do you have specific language to make them clear?
No,
So that's, great, make it clear and we'll be done. But I don't have the specific language, so I don't
Right.
feel that they're ready for approval. What do you think? So I think it's gonna have to wait until next month, unfortunately, because this is a stack. Okay, are you able to get, red line them and send them around?
Sure.
Okay. Thank you. So no motion on minutes this month.
Were you there, Todd?
at the meeting? Yes, I'm not at the meeting.
Well, then, sorry.
Well, that's what I was asking, so if it just as easy as just saying, you know, is there a roll call on the meeting? I mean. I don't typically, honestly, read through them. I leave that up to Dave.
I typically do read through them and I redline it and give it back, and this
Yeah.
time I said, Dave has been doing such a good job, I'll just leave it to him, because we usually double up on things, so. In order to not duplicate, and
Well, I agree.
and he has had other things to do too, so.
And I think that particular meeting, I think it had you recorded in one place. And in a second place, I think Dylan was saying something about, well, since Todd's not here, we'll do whatever. It's like, well, that's an inconsistency. He is or he's not.
Reading over it, the impression that I got was that maybe you had to step out during the executive session.
No.
Yeah, I think Todd was on a Twizzler hunt.
It doesn't matter, we'll move on, if you can bring them up next time, that would be good. I am a little concerned. These are a lot of minutes, the only other thing that I have is we should have August included at this point, so we'll get on those, and hopefully we'll have all of these plus August, plus
We're gonna have
September.
the whole year pending.
For next. This is bad. I don't think we need another motion, but re-signing the main minutes because we signed the wrong paper is on here. Do we have those two signed?
Oh, that's, is that this? What do we have here?
Believe that is the May 18th.
May 18th.
Yeah, so these were approved. Just needed a signature on the signature page.
Hey, one down. Go Karen Dave.
12 to go. Oh, and there was a 2-pager.
All right, financial matters,
Well, I reviewed the financial matters and the unaudited financial statements, and I am good with them, so I would make the motion that we accept them as they was reported.
Second.
Director Hook's motion, Director Wickman, second, all in favor, aye.
I,
Unanimous approval. I'm sorry, Director Garner, I'm still not in the habit of looking up. You'll have, I see you this time, but if I'm missing you, you're gonna have to yell at me. Okay, excellent. Then we had a quote from Utility Metering Solutions to discuss. Did everybody have a chance to review that?
I did, my question is, so they're charging $100 a piece. What does it cost us to do it, just out of curiosity? Any idea?
Todd, I honestly don't know. That's a great question. I don't know the answer.
Yeah,
Douglas?
well, the timing, I think, is the biggest factor here.
Right.
As far as cost for us, we'd have to break that down pretty steep, and I'm sure it'd be much cheaper for us to do it, which is
Well,
kind of why it started like that.
Is that just their labor, or is that with the device?
No, so that's their labor, that's them integrating their work order system into our billing system, so we can just import things. It's
Right.
their call center, it's the online scheduling, it's the follow-up calls. There's a lot that goes into that price, which it was surprising to me. That's why I actually questioned the additional price for all of the scheduling, but then when they explained every breakdown, it was very justifiable in my mind.
Okay. So I'm also naive also, so like, I mean, I know it's telling, so we had like 3 staff, we weren't doing it, but like, how long does it typically take to install one? Any idea?
I wasn't around when they did the complete meter and transmitter change out back in 2006, 2005
Right.
range. But when they did that project, they initially started with contractors installing, not in-house. And
Right.
I assume it was 2 years. That's what my feeling was from talking and looking at all the historical documents there. So this would be pretty huge for us to get this done within 3 to 4 months. The inside meters are definitely harder, and having only 3 office staff handling all the scheduling and everything, and then having 3 crews do the change outs and then rescheduling and everything, it's a definite advantage to go for it. And yes, cost is a big factor, but this would be great to not have to estimate bills more than we need to.
So I would personally, I'm not opposed to it, but I have a question. Do you think we could negotiate it down a little?
I don't think it would hurt to try, but these guys it's a pretty big company and they have really great recommendations. Everybody that I thought to reach out to said, use these guys, they're great. So that's my point of view.
Well, what would you guys think? I'm just always a negotiator. What would you think if so they wanted, what, 220,000, was it about 220,000? What if we offered them 190?
Well, the thing about that total cost on that quote is that's what is existing right now. And because we have them dying every month, we are replacing them as they're coming in, as long as we can get them scheduled. So if they have a 6-week lead time, which, that could change. And obviously the approximated time of completion can change. We might, do 100, 200, 300 down, and that price just keeps dropping.
Oh, okay. So up until the time they actually take it over, we would still be servicing the dying ones.
Correct. Yeah. And when I spoke with their project manager, he said they will not charge us for what they don't do. So that quote is based on what we sent them.
So it's purely, so if they do, I'm gonna make this up, 1,500, that's all they're charging us for. It's not like a flat fee quote.
Correct. Yeah. So the price was, I think it was $99.95 per.
Yeah. So $100 a shot. Yeah.
Yeah. So all said and done, whatever they touch, that's what they're charging us for.
Right. Okay. Well, do you guys have any thoughts?
Yeah, well, this is, up until now, it's always been done in-house.
Right.
We're not doing it in-house now because we disturbed the house, and the house has got other things to distract them.
Well, this
So,
is actually, it has been behind schedule since I was on the board.
Really?
So I'm disappointed that we didn't get this done, but it was behind schedule then, and then COVID hit, and there was, what was it? It was a couple months of supply chain problem, and we just kept falling further and further back.
Well, I will tell you, I'm personally okay with it now. I mean, cause to me, to catch it up, to get things right, and if it's something that should have been done 2 or 3 years ago, I'm okay with it. Yes, what are you guys thinking?
I like the idea that we can augment what they're doing and help reduce the price a little bit. But keep the ball moving forward in whatever way we can,
Right.
which is minimal.
Director Garner, any comment?
Well, I like the idea of having actual data as opposed to, having to estimate bills. So I would support moving forward as quickly as possible with the total overall cost ameliorated by whatever the staff can do between now and when the project is done. And I would so move if that's appropriate.
Director Garner moves to accept. Go forward, well. No, yes, we can do that. It's a service contract, so this isn't anything that we need to bid or do anything. Okay. So moved by Director Garner,
I would second it.
Director Hook second. I will vote for it too, but like I said, I'm just going to say, I'm disappointed we couldn't get this done for the district without taking on the expense. And I'll be interested to see, this was a big part of the task load that looks like for a field crew for what they are doing. So be interesting to see how, did you see number of on the breakdown that is provided in the board packet, number of meter replacements? Yeah. All in favor?
I'll take a look at it.
Yeah.
You look at me, so my interest is piqued. Yeah.
You're giving me the look, what are you talking about? All in favor?
I
Aye, unanimous approval. All right. On to engineer report.
Yeah, if you can pull up our PowerPoint, and again, I probably
Thank you,
said,
Doug. I'm sorry. Thank you, Doug.
yeah, I appreciate it, Doug. I didn't have a good answer for Todd, so, thanks for being around and backing me up. And I was probably a little bit out, I didn't pay attention that you were actually discussing a motion, and I interjected on the agenda thing, but that stands. Like I said, I just it's kind of a brain dump what I put in front of you on the engineering report each month, so
Okay.
we can talk more about or less about anything you want to.
Very good.
And the first thing, the first thing on the my first bullet point is maintenance report that Josh puts together. And at first, when we put it out late last week, there was no news, there was no breaks in August. We actually had one over this last weekend, so it'll be technically a September one. A couple of things I want to point out about that. And I see where Josh is in, so he can chime in at any point. First off, we got a compliment from some folks nearby. And I think Sam printed that out, and that's one of the things he handed out is a complimentary.
I just handed you the stack.
Oh, okay,
I didn't hand those out yet.
all right.
I can go grab those ones.
Yeah, it's probably sitting right where you laid them, Sam.
I thought you might want the pleasure of.
Yeah, so that was my fumble. But anyway, we got a complimentary, a compliment from a couple of the folks that were nearby. And it was over the weekend, and they had to work, off hours, and it was a pleasure to get a compliment from some neighbors, because we do get some, as you know, we do get some nasty grams, right? And so, and the other thing, Josh let me know that there were actually some neighbors there that served donuts and burritos and so forth to our crew that was out there. So they kind of turned it into a neighborhood thing. The other thing that I can report more on or talk more about as you would like, but this was when they uncovered it, it was a pipe stretch that is showing signs of corrosion, so it wasn't a shock once we opened it. Thanks for doing that. So,
absolutely. I was down off on goodness. Green Mountain,
Yeah,
they're right, I'm sorry, right up the Union.
yeah,
That's where the McKibbins used to live.
Oh, okay. Okay, is that the same?
They were
one?
just north of the park
Right,
when I was growing up.
oh,
If they still.
oh, yeah, that is Green Mountain Park.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's in fact where they live, that's
Oh,
where it was.
Jackson Park, isn't it?
what's Jackson Park now? We always call it Rocket Ship.
Rocket Ship Park, yes.
Okay, yeah, Union and
Yeah,
Jewel-ish,
well, it's north of there, yeah.
or that's it, but yeah, okay.
That's us.
Union and Green Mountain Drive.
Yeah, Florida.
Yeah.
Yep, that's where they're at.
Yeah, that is, okay. The other part is that, like I said, it's duly noted that the pipe was, old and showed signs of corrosion. So, this will be on next year's, the 2025 to-do list for, make sure I get this right, infrastructure related replacement projects.
Okay,
Would that be 2024 or 2025?
We can move it around, but I think we have a list for 2024. I guess
Yeah.
we're still talking about it.
2025 now? Okay.
yeah.
It's 2024, it'll be for 2025.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not an emergency.
Right,
But it just kind of shows how, some of these decisions are real time and that's how these move up to, okay, this would be a priority in 2025.
gotcha.
Okay.
It's back to this, is there anything the board can do to recognize this crew that did so well?
Oh, that's a great idea, Roger.
I don't know what would be
Yeah,
appropriate or.
I'm open for suggest that. That is a fantastic idea.
What would be customary or appropriate or?
Recognition of them by itself is a big motivator.
Maybe, maybe like an Amazon card or something, is that, I don't know. I'm not in tune with the culture, but.
Yeah.
Typically, we do not, we do not. This is a part of the business model of the district is for handling emergencies. And that is a big driver here. And absolutely, they did an outstanding job, but I would bet that they got some lucky neighbors who recognize them with burritos, and I bet a lot of them are doing outstanding jobs every day. So.
I don't know, maybe just a note from the board, I'd be happy.
Something like that. Yeah, again, it's more than the reward or the financial reward. It's just recognition.
I wouldn't mind taking.
It goes a long ways, yeah.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind providing me with it, if the board's in agreement, I don't know, monopolize this, but if you provide me with their names, maybe, and just a little personal note, or the president could sign.
Yeah, and
Just because it sounds like we did really well with the public in this regard. I know we've got a great crew that does good work. And for
exactly.
the public to be this positive is kind of
Yeah.
unusual.
And to Karen's points, we are a public utility, so handing out gift certificates or
Sure.
things of monetary value might be not appropriate or I don't know, but at the end of the day, it's not a matter of what, in my opinion, what they get. It's more that they're recognized.
Okay.
So yeah. So, some amount of recognition,
Yeah.
as informal as it may be, would go a long ways.
Well, I move that Director Wendell draft a letter of appreciation with the help and guidance that Mike Yost. Just like whoever the crew is, I don't know who's involved, but we appreciate that they presented themselves so well, especially in view of the public. It's very much appreciated.
Okay, she'll write something to me that I can pass on to the crew.
Do we even need to vote on
You
that?
don't need to vote on it.
Probably not, probably
No,
not,
yeah.
yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
proposed development reviews,
Thank you, Roger.
yeah, that was.
Director Wendell.
That was great. Maybe, no, I'll go ahead, we'll just stay in this order. I was thinking maybe we'll jump ahead to consulting engineer. But proposed development reviews, we can talk as little or as much about you want any of these. As it turns out, I didn't know this when I took the position, but that's a lot. I get a lot of email traffic and phone traffic as these come in, and they have questions, and of course, developers are, impatient. To put it at the least, so I deal with them as they come in, but, and I know, just, I know, there's an anti-development sentiment, that some of you carried into your position as board members. That's what you ran on, that's what you got voted for. So I'm not saying I'm pro-development, I'm just saying there's a lot of activity. This is a very, Denver's a very dynamic metro area. This is a very dynamic part of town. So there's a lot going on. I'll report as little or as much as you want. And so when we get to that PowerPoint, we can skip over any or all of those, or I can fill you in with more details as you see fit or as you require. Infrastructure replacement projects, we call them those now, not capital improvement projects. We're getting we're getting to where we're singing off the same sheet of music, right? And engineering projects, there's just a couple of those, so I can go through that real quickly. And then consulting engineering update. That's basically, as we discussed, maybe we don't have the best choice for us, to be blunt. JVA is probably underperforming expectations.
Is it more timing of things or quality of work?
Well, a little bit of both. And what I mean by that, Todd, it's a great question, is because the deadlines or the due dates we agree upon with them, they get right up to the last minute, and they either don't provide what they said in a timely manner. And so I get on them. And then, as I might have reported, you've all met Mandy, who's our point of contact. I actually went over her head and talked to her boss. And so we got a little bit of, we're hitting the deadlines a little bit better, but I can tell by the memo that I included in, not in the board packet, but to y'all, and then the follow-up, there's some things left to be desired, so I can kind of tell it was submitted in a hurry. Oh crap, we better get this in before Yost calls my boss again.
Right.
Kind of thing. So the quality has, not that they're getting things wrong, but the in-depth, you expect an engineer's, not just the facts and figures, but a little bit of interpretation. And so we're having to do that. Maybe I'm earning my pay, right, by taking the facts and figures they gave us, and I'll be formulating some opinions. So yeah, to your question, yeah, it's timeliness, but it's also, I see quality slipping. I see responsiveness, slipping. And so, so maybe if you don't mind, I'll jump ahead to the consulting engineer update, because you asked the question and it's pertinent to all these. So I was directed by the board. I don't remember if it was a motion or not, but I certainly got the message to find somebody else. So we have advertised on the webpage a notification for engineers. We'd like to see their we sent out a request for qualifications, an RFQ. And I also reached out to a handful of consulting firms that are here. One of the things I did is reach out to the firms that are here in the West Metro area, because JVA at this point, Mandy is out of their Fort Collins office. And I'm not saying that's awful in this day and age with remote, but kind of it is a little bit of a barrier to better service. So I did reach out personally and sent, maybe not personally, but sent to a handful, probably 6, 7, or 8 firms here in the local area that I know of that have a good reputation. And interestingly, one of them did actually see our notification on the website, which is good. And so they reached out to me today and said, yeah, we're interested. Can we talk more? And so I said, absolutely. We'll look forward to this. And then what we've asked them to submit is a statement of qualifications, an SOQ. And one of the reasons I brought this up before, one of the reasons I'm going through this process, it does meet federal guidelines for selecting engineers and architects, professional design teams. So that if and when we apply for any kind of federal dollars,
We've met their criteria.
we have met the federal criteria for selecting a design firm. So, and I'm sorry, go ahead.
If I could interrupt that, but that does remind me, whatever happened to that, did that fall off the radar, the federal dollar search with that other firm?
HDR?
HDR.
Well, they're not doing anything at this point, because they haven't been tasked with it. It is on my plate.
Okay, I thought they were tasked with finishing their evaluation of what,
Oh, maybe I
of
missed.
bringing, anybody remember? That was something I did not vote for, and everybody else did. So I think, but we did pass that, right?
Well, I think we were asking
Asking
if
them
they
to.
could get the money, yeah.
Yeah, so they were supposed to be providing a follow-up report.
But I
of
thought
what
that
they were gonna do.
so we had to give them. Or my understanding was we had to give them like that infrastructure, we had to give them the infrastructure improvements, whatever they needed. To be able to try to justify asking, so there were some that was like, almost like grants. And the others, or most of it was low interest loans, if I remember correctly.
There's low interest grant loans, and they called it loan forgiveness, which is the
Yes.
equivalent of grant.
Correct.
That's a fancy way of
Right.
saying, yeah, well, you don't have to pay it back, so that's a grant. Yeah, they had some strategies. Again, I thought the written report was rather vanilla, like. Well, if you just have a little bit of knowledge, you would know that. But I did watch their presentation, which was a meeting or a few months prior to me coming on board, and I thought that was quite good. But I'm sorry, I missed it if they were tasked.
I thought they were supposed to be doing something, but did you want to go in a different direction? So I think
No.
that would still be fine to find out what they were doing. See if they would pick it up, because I think that's what the board did direct, but
Wasn't there a question about community demographics? Is it related to all of this?
There was.
Well,
I wonder if they just said, oh, to affluent, can't go this way.
Well, the
Well,
other
we found
thing
we
that
were
I was
both
wondering was, and I think we actually talked about as well, if I remember correctly, was that. Even say if we got. I think they said there was like $80 million worth available or something.
yeah.
I mean, if we got the money, would we be able to start all the projects and do? All of it, or were we more on the pay as we go program?
Yeah, there was a bunch of considerations that I didn't know if we were ready to do, but
Right, that's
maybe
what
pick
because
that
I
back up.
remember that too, that I wasn't sure because of. You know, we hadn't really,
Well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we did not ever ask them to do anything. So
I don't know, I know we tasked them with something.
Okay.
I agree with you.
Come back to us.
I thought they were supposed to come back to us.
Yeah. I did pick up, as I came on board, I did pick up that they did enough. To find out we did not meet, it's called LMI, a low to moderate income. And, yeah, to put it in your words,
Okay,
Green Mountain Water and Sand District is not particularly impoverished. I mean,
yeah,
a
no, but
little
that
bit
is the,
sarcastic, but,
that's the
Oh,
one
is that
thing that
what the
they,
dollars were earmarked for?
yeah.
not entirely. That is one route, is if you're,
Okay. We
but-
just didn't qualify for that route.
exactly.
But I think that was the one route that they identified that may be available to us, and we didn't
Yeah.
qualify for anything else.
Maybe that was why we were on the back burner.
Probably, and
Might have
they were,
related.
I'm not surprised, having gone through these myself over the years, different programs, not the latest infrastructure one, but that is one obvious route. If you're low to moderate income is below 60%, it's some statistic like that, then yeah, there is a bigger bucket of money. But the other, but it's not just restricted to that by any means. And one of the things we've, in my opinion, I think we've done correctly on this is, by moving them forward, we have a set of projects, we have an engineer under contract, that's RG and Associates, for these 7 projects we have out there. As I've said before, one of the things you get rewarded for is, being proactive and being aggressive, so, I can't promise anything, but the fact that we have some projects, real projects on the board that we're moving forward with, the funding agencies like DOLA, they love it if they have projects to move forward with. So I would look forward to moving not having movement by the board, but, you know, whether it's myself or HDR, being more proactive, than I've been, and if HDR has been tasked with it, I can pick that ball up again. But if we have projects on the board that we're ready to design and construct, that's gonna go a long ways towards, getting some help with some funding, probably at the state, at the state level, even though it's federal dollars that are being funded.
Well, it sounds like if we did task them, the ball was dropped, so I would feel bad. Pick it up and do what you like. I'm sorry to derail this conversation, but we'll look forward to a future report from.
Yeah, no, like I
Okay.
said, I would rather have the things you wanna talk about than the things I wanna talk about, that's why I'm here.
Well,
So I'll follow up with HDR,
yeah,
and in the meantime, it's kind of, what I've mentioned to some of you guys personally. I'm not a development guy either, I'm a public infrastructure guy, that was my career.
yeah.
So, the fact that there's a lot of development is, takes a lot of my time, and my time would be better spent following up on these kinds of things, in my opinion, so I'd rather see a consulting engineer,
Mhm.
pick that back up. Mary did that for years, obviously, and obviously, they're not with us anymore,
Yeah.
partially because of that. We have tasked JVA with that, but that's been hit or miss, I think, in their responsiveness. So that'd be one of the criteria I would look for in a consulting engineer, is that ability to do development reviews. Ultimately, it's, you know, they would report to me and I would report to the board, don't get me wrong, but, making sure all the i's are dotted and t's are crossed, I would rather, a consultant do that.
Okay.
Quite bluntly.
Yeah, well, and sorry, and that's two separate conversations, because we've talked about that too. Yes, we definitely need that for now, and then we need to figure out how we're gonna handle the engineering permanently, because those are, like you said, those are a big part of what we do here, and we need to have somebody that's accountable to our district, making sure we do. some of that.
Exactly.
So how is the search going? You found this, you're going to be talking to this one firm?
No, I'm gonna get, the one firm just reached out to me to
Okay.
get some more information. They're one of many firms that are gonna submit a statement of qualifications.
Yeah.
I suspect at this point, based on feedback, that we're gonna get maybe a half dozen submittals. So what I'm going to do is, well, the first thing I do wanna do, maybe it does take board action, is I would love to have one or two board members. And I'm looking at you, Todd, because you work for a design firm, so you have some idea what goes into that. So I'd love it if you're one of the subcommittee members, that could help me review the statement of qualifications, then we'll shortlist to 3. And interview. And again, I would, you and maybe possibly another board member, help me with the evaluation, along with staff, help me with the evaluations and sit in on their interview. We'll schedule a time at your convenience. And talk to them. Then what my thought process is, bear with me, my thought process is, maybe we don't select one firm. In fact, I'm recommending we don't at this time. Ultimately, that probably is the way you should go. But, what this will do, if say we select 3 firms, then we can maybe pass the work around a little bit. And then when we get to the point.
Well, that's what I thought we were kind of doing now.
We are, but it's kind of,
Right,
this way we have 3 that we've already qualified.
right. We're spreading our, not our loss, but our,
In order to make a good evaluation for.
Yeah, I guess I'm actually trying to consolidate, that's why.
well, you're spreading the workload. I mean.
Yes, but it was everyone would
Right,
have to start
and
from
if we're
scratch.
fortunate, maybe a firm will rise to the top like Green, right?
They will. So yeah, again, at this point, I don't think any of us are ready to say, okay, here is the firm that should be our firm moving forward, whether it's development review or what. This will give us an opportunity to maybe have 3 firms that we've already qualified. So every time we have a project, we don't have to go through this process again. We have 3 firms that are on our short list, and then it's just a phone call. It's your guys' turn, and then after a year or 2 or 4, we can say, okay, this is the firm, this is the cream that rose to the top. Yeah.
I'd be interested in the evaluation process on the committee, unless somebody else is aching to do it. Dave,
Yeah, I typically, we just bring those all up and,
Well, that's fine, if you wanna send them to all of us and we all,
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Oh, I'm fine with sending them to all of you, don't get me wrong. Or what I'm asking for, but there will be a time, well.
Well, you're saying like ultimately with an interview, I mean, we can,
Well, I guess even that and or, I send it to y'all and then. For you to respond, you can't. There's certain protocol you have, so there's not a quorum.
right, well, we just respond back to you, we just can't respond to each other.
Yeah, I get it, yeah, and you're right, I stand corrected, there is that venue. But I guess I would like to have 2 board members participate in the process all along, so that when it does come to future board meetings, I have at least 1 or 2 board members that have been part of the process and can help me present to the rest of the board, the decision. And actually, my experience, quite frankly, is, that's what I see a lot from, municipalities and other.
to have a subcommittee
Yeah, of
yeah.
city council members and so forth, yeah, so that's
Yeah.
what I'm asking is that.
is for that,
Yeah.
yeah. We have not done that before. So
Would
let
you
me
like, do you like doing amongst all of us? I don't really care which way we do it, I'm happy to be on a subcommittee,
Yeah.
I'm happy to do it in general and then narrow it and then be on, or however you wanna do it.
what do you think? Do you have any interest in looking these over? Are you happy enough to have a subcommittee?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I have certain interests in, that's not,
That's not,
that's not.
Director Garner, what do you think? You
Yeah,
are,
I honestly, I don't think it matters.
yeah,
We hired Mike based on his experience. I'm inclined to trust him unless that goes south, and I don't see that happening. But if you want somebody to participate, I'm glad to do it.
no. Okay, well, then how about, then I would be fine if
Would
make
you
a
just want him to
motion,
distribute?
distribute it to everybody and, is there a motion to create an official subcommittee? I don't know if we need to create an official
My
subcommittee.
only input would be, as long as it's not me, I appreciate somebody else.
Doing it.
Well, what if
Give him
we
a-
just start off by getting it, and then once we start narrowing it down, we will decide that.
All right.
Okay with that?
If you need, yeah, and I
Cause I
generally,
mean, maybe,
I don't think it
maybe
needs to be an
some will be
official
so
sub.
obvious that we won't. Or like, I will recognize people that I don't like.
it will
you
all,
know,
it will all
There's
be
always
fine.
that, right?
Well, I'll just know like of all the firms we've used, and I don't have but I have a handful that I'm just not confident in. It's not that they're necessarily bad people, but either they're like shorthanded, they take on too much work, they get behind. I mean, it's not necessarily they're incompetent engineers. Typically, the problem is they've often, or when we deal with them, they're overextended.
And that's exactly what's going on with JVA, so that, you asked me that question, or one of you, are they incompetent? No. Are they overworked? Probably. And so that.
See, and that's what I more see at our firm, that we're just deal with people that literally so much is getting put on their plate because people aren't working.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. All right, so it sounds like a plan. You're going to get the RFQs, send them to
And
everybody.
SOQs, yeah.
And yep, whatever you've got going on.
Yeah.
And you have a team to call on for discussion. You can talk to them, you can talk to anybody else.
Right.
Yeah, as much as you need, but you've gotta go to. Excellent. What else?
What else do you want to talk about? Quite frankly.
Okay, well, going through your slides, I have questions on the federal center.
Should we go through the slides then? Yeah, that's the first slide, in fact, proposed development reviews. We went through that, operation maintenance.
Yep.
Josh asked me to speak to this.
I do like the use of the mini excavator. Look at that. Nicely pictured.
Okay, that was the point. That was.
I got it. I saw it.
Okay, all right.
I did.
No, enough said. Okay.
Yeah,
All right, next
Did
slide.
we buy this?
we bought this and I had lots of questions about it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Can I have it at my next kid's birthday
I
party?
know.
Yeah, we'll bury them all.
As long as they don't rise up again.
Is there anything new on 1031 or 1078?
Not really,
Nothing new.
not really, not even the car wash, I.
Yeah, you answered my questions on that. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Yeah, so Fed Center, you have some questions?
I have some concerns on the Fed Center. Did everybody have a chance to read the reports?
Yes.
I'm not sure even where to start.
Well, first off, great questions you asked. You obviously did read the report, Karen. Your questions were very
Yeah.
insightful, so those are spot on.
You
So I
don't
can
have
tell.
to be complimentary. You can tell me I'm driving you crazy with questions. It happens.
No, actually, it's the opposite. I said it, I like, no, these guys are looking to read it or not, and then have very good to the point questions like you had, Karen. I'm an engineer, I nerd out on those, so
Well,
you can escalate anytime.
thank you for answering. I have two big concerns that kind of coalesce into one plan of action. One, I'm very concerned about the lift station, which everybody who has been listening to Jeff Baker knows we don't like lift stations. They're a bad idea. So they're problematic and we have problems with Tamarisk and we can't account for all of those in future. So.
And I have somewhat of a response to that. We actually, at their request, we actually met with them today.
Okay.
And again, we didn't make any deals. We didn't even give them the report yet. But we will forward it to them because we did let them know.
It was being finished up or?
Well, not only that, they're paying for it.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we reinforced that that's part of our rules and regulations that the developer pays for the engineering. So we're gonna send them a bill.
Yeah.
Basically, so they're paying for it. So that I wanted to talk to you before I released it to them, and they understood that. So without objection, I don't think this needs a board action unless you say so. I will release it to them. Again, they're paying for it. And we went over
part of our standard operating procedures anyway, correct?
Yeah, but I do appreciate it because I do have some questions that probably should be addressed in there before.
Perfect. Great.
Okay. So.
And I'm sorry, now I'm interrupting, but I do have a response to the lift station question you have. And we pretty much told them, and Josh was part of the meeting, and he pretty much told them, we really don't want to operate a lift station. So, so to that extent, we don't necessarily want it or want to take it over. And if it's say a metro district, they can own and operate the lift station, and we would rather not. And so, and I don't know if maybe even Dylan can answer that question. Can there be a metro district within a district that owns and operates water and sewer infrastructure?
No.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, I mean,
there should not be overlapping service providers of the same service.
Yeah, they could exclude themselves. But I don't know that it needs to be, so that's exactly what I was thinking, and that's what we had talked about. I also, that kind of goes along with that, the environmental report I thought was inclusive. I mean, that's what they said, right? It was.
Yeah, that's not the end all be all by a long shot. And again, we talked about that when they were over, and I brought it up, and just so you know, on speaking for the district, I said, first off, the environmental issue is the first priority, and all the stuff about pumps and pipes is not a close second. It's important, but that's the biggest issue. They acknowledged that we talked about it, and they said, yeah, this is the first memo, just like JBA provided us a memo, not an official report. And we also talked about it, that they have other review agencies that have to be, City of Lakewood, and I don't remember all the other agencies that will also have to give them a green light on the environmental issue. But again, we made it clear, we're not putting our pipes in that ground, or letting our people on the work on the ground until we're satisfied.
And I think what resonated with me was when we had the discussion before, is that you don't always know the problems today, and this could be developing a problem later. I'm also concerned with I'm very concerned with them taking on the risk of buying this known contaminated site. And if and when there is a break, we will be responsible for all plume damage that carries those contaminants. And I
We
don't
had
want
that same discussion, yeah,
So-
we're on the same page, yeah.
what I am thinking that goes with different kinds of risk, but all the risk with the lift station. Looking at different options, one of the options I thought was it's not doing a metro district because they are in there's pluses and minuses, but maybe we can get Dylan, can we get a legal analysis of possibilities here? I don't think they're gonna exclude from the district, but I think we can ask them, they remain the owners of all of the infrastructure, local infrastructure up until the connection point.
Rather
So
than
what-
the usual,
Right,
assignment and dedication to the district.
yes,
Well, so if the developer then walks away, but let's go back to the contaminants. So let's say something happens in the future, once the developer is done developing.
there is no such thing at this point then. They will have to make arrangements for something that they will be doing long-term. That's what I
Well,
mean.
that's what okay, so that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Completely.
If we say we will take it up from the connection point and you're responsible for the local infrastructure, they will have to figure out, and I don't know what that is, but
Well, one of the things we
No.
think we know going into it is that Denver Water will not want to see a private, their own private, they'll want to see public, they'll want the water system to be ours.
okay,
So back to your point, your question, what if there is a water break and a plume and all
Yeah.
that? So those are the things we still need to,
so that
work through.
goes back to then my question, Dylan, can you look at doing some analysis for our options? Because I would like to say we're never owning that stuff because we never chose to build anything on this contaminated land. So if they wanted the risk, they can keep the risk forever, as far as I'm concerned. But we will be continuing serving them through the connection point. But if there is a conflict with Denver's rules, how that works, and what we can do about it, any other options, I had another, we have some super, fund, like we have already, Tamarisk has special fees assessed for that, but we'd have to make them steeper to cover eventualities, have some kind of bond issued for eventualities. So what I would like to start with is asking for a legal analysis of options. And then what options we go with depends on what you find, but also get a risk analysis, if we can go with Director Garner's suggestions and have somebody look at the risks involved in the lift station, in the environmental concerns with the main breaks and all of these other things, and get an actual analysis and have those two reports dovetail to give us some possible answers in future. What do you think?
I agree. I mean, to
I can
me-
look into that, yes, and I would also suggest on the latter part of that, sorry, Director Hooks, to interrupt you.
No.
The pool, the special district insurance pool provides some, I believe, complimentary risk evaluation services. So you might reach out to them on this specific project and inquire of them what they could provide.
Okay, would you be able to do that for us?
Absolutely, yeah, that's a great idea,
Thank you.
that's something I can,
That would be great.
yeah.
And Dave Garner is got a lot of experience on this. Dave, do you think that's a good place to start? And if there is more that needs to be done from there, can we reach out to you?
Yes and yes.
Great. Okay, all right, and then Dylan will go through legal options. That sounds okay?
Yes.
Any?
Yeah, no,
Great.
sounds good.
Okay,
And just real quick follow up
Yeah.
that, yeah, I'll see if the SDA, risk assessment service they provide is gonna be helpful, something that's readily available. If not, would you like to move into hiring a firm for a second opinion?
Yes,
Or
I
should
would
we
think so, yeah.
defer that, but I'm just thinking ahead,
Well, yeah, because I guess, I don't know what level, if it's complimentary, what level,
Of course.
what
That's what
level
I'm
of work
thinking.
product are we going to get?
that's the gen,
I mean, I like the thought of it being, available, I just don't know.
to how much detail and
Correct.
how specific it'll be to our
Right.
situation.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah,
Our
so, yeah,
membership
fine.
pays
We
for it.
can,
Our
Right,
membership
and it-
pays for the service, so it's not complimentary.
Yeah. And they're your insurer, so everyone benefits from minimizing your risk.
So do we actually have liability insurance or a certain amount through them at all besides our regular insurance?
Yeah, my understanding is that they provide all of your insurance except possibly workers' comp.
Oh, okay. I mean, not, but like the dollar figure off the top of your head by any chance, like?
I
50
don't know that. Doug might know that.
yeah.
1 million?
Yes, it's the answer.
You're talking about annual premiums?
No,
No,
not the premiums.
coverage
What is
amounts.
what is our actual insurance coverage?
What's our exposure? Yeah.
That is very dependent on each object that it's protecting, so it varies very much. I can send you the policy.
Well, I would just be curious, like I said, if it's, like, I'll just use our architectural firm. So we usually have like $2 million each occurrence up to whatever, say $10 million, whatever in a year, whatever it is. So I didn't know, like, we have $1 million, but if this plume goes out and it's a $30 million fix, are we 29 million in the hole?
Oh yeah, no, it's definitely dependent on the liability. So like a tank
Right.
has more coverage versus a pump station that's different. So yeah,
Gotcha.
I can definitely send that to you though.
Yeah, if you could email, if you could just send me the pages that have that, I would just be curious, I don't need the whole policy for you to go, but just kind of that page might be just kind of nice, or if there's like we get like summaries from people. I don't know if you guys get like a certificate of insurance.
I'm sure there is, but to your question, or your background, Todd, yeah, I know this, I know the same thing, engineering firms or architecture firms, so their liability insurance will be up to like $2 million per occurrence and so much aggregate and so on and so forth.
This isn't like that?
This is like that, and yeah, if it's $100 million lawsuit, insurance only covers 2 million of it, so.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah,
That is the
So
bottom
we have a lot, we have a lot at stake.
we had a lot.
potentially.
Okay, well then maybe I don't need it, Doug. I just know that we have a lot at stake. Okay.
And it's my I am thinking, Dylan, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, that these reports that I'm asking, the analysis that I'm asking for are covered under our bylaws as something pertaining to the development and the developer will pay for.
The rules and regs. Yeah, I think that this is probably the expense of these analyses are covered under the rules and regs for them to pay
So it
for.
would just be something to let them know that we're doing.
Yeah, same thing applies. If we do end up hiring a environmental consulting firm.
Yeah.
They would, we'd let them know upfront, but that would be on their ticket too, according to the rules and regulations that,
Great.
That's just like an engineering analysis. It is an engineering analysis specific to the subject matter of environmental.
Okay.
And so, yeah, be on their dime too,
Great.
the cost of the consulting firm.
Great, just checking.
In my opinion.
Mike, can you send me that initial report that you received?
Oh, absolutely, Dylan. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
You go on. Yep.
As far as the initial report, the recommendations on the sewer, I thought were complete, and I would agree with JV's recommendation for option number 4 for that model and whatever they would do. That recommendation seems solid to me. Anybody?
So was that the presentation that I was in on the day I came in? Where she was going over that?
Yes, and if you, and actually that, scenario number 4 was not on the table, then that was based on our conversation with them while you were there. And so that was the difference between the initial draft report that I sent the week before last, and the one I sent late last
I
week.
only read the last one.
Yeah, which is probably at the end of the day, good call on your part, Karen. But yeah, it's scenario number 4 is existing flows plus, projected flows for the build out of, the St. Anthony's, all the MOBs, the medical office
Right.
buildings and so forth.
Yeah.
Plus kind of taking out what was projected for that area and some of the past modeling assumptions and putting in their numbers for the number of dwelling units they have,
Okay.
plus the commercial.
Okay.
So I was a long way saying that's scenario number 4.
Okay.
That is that is probably what the staff, we talked about is what we would recommend also.
Okay.
Scenario number 5 was kind of the worst case.
Yeah.
If everything built out,
Right.
possibly that would be scenario number 5. Scenario number 4 is the more likely one that we should probably move forward with. Or some, when they came and talked to us today, we didn't give them the report. We said, bottom line, we showed them the maps of what's yellow, what's red and so forth. And so we said, bottom line, there are some downstream capacity issues. And then ultimately, we're probably gonna have to enter into some kind of development agreement. To figure out who pays for what, when.
Right.
The other thing we told them, though, it's not an urgent. It's not like this has to keep them from, putting, their first, their first, construction project. Doesn't need, this could be we should negotiate the development agreement before they start construction. But it's not like we have to rebuild a bunch of sewer lines now. Again, this is based on a very conservative, assumptions, based on Merrick in the past and now what we're making, for instance, for and you were part of that conversation too, Todd.
Yeah.
Where the 1.75 MGD,
Correct. Yeah.
that's a very, very conservative estimate for the future build out of the St. Anthony's campus. We talked, and even at that meeting, yes, it's conservative and we may never see that number, but we're not gonna take that off the table. We should reserve that capacity.
Yeah, and probably at that, anyway. But that does bring up a good point too, because the agreements in the past, they should be tied to some kind of, here's what will get done before you hook up.
Absolutely.
Okay,
And that we did have that discussion.
Okay.
They understood that.
okay, very good.
Absolutely, yeah.
I am a little concerned about the water for that section of it. Looks like we already have a problem with a couple hundred lines being less than 200 20 PSI. So what I don't want to do, what I don't want to do is add to that problem. So this is kind of the same problem we have with the sewer, and what we ended up doing was saying, yeah, we know we have this existing problem, but you are not responsible for it, but we can't let you add into this until we get some resolution here. So we need to figure out how to mitigate some of that before we can. And I didn't see any recommendations for how we're going to bring that number down to make it to do better on the water side.
Correct. Yeah, a couple of thoughts there is, yeah, what water and sewer are based on two really different things.
Yeah.
And I don't want to give you TMI or,
Right.
So tell me to shut up when you think it's appropriate, but, sewer is more based on usage. Water is based more on fire flow, quite frankly. So it's, at any given development, any given time, it's more like.
Did you say the word fire flow?
Yeah, how much water they need to put out fires.
Put out a fire.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah, fire flow.
Okay, I didn't know that.
So yeah, there's, again, I'm gonna try to filter to make this concise, but yeah, at the end of the day, it's fire flow, that drives availability. And so, the district does have the ability to provide adequate fire flow to their development. And that's basically what JVA looked at and confirmed with their report. It does stress the system in that manner. That's why they, at this point, had no recommendations for improvement. That said, talking to Josh, I don't know if Josh is still on the line. But he can certainly chime in. We do have an operational issue, and that is those pumps. The pumps are down there, actually in the Federal Center area, just a little bit north of the post office in that region. But they actually pump to the zone higher up. They pump to a tank. So they don't pump directly to
And then is it gravity from there?
and then gravity flows back down to there. Yeah, thank you for helping me make that concise. So but that said, those pumps are running a lot, almost all the time. And so there is an this will put further strain on the pumping system. So that is something we need to work through. And as we negotiate, and I'm not telling you what to do, but it's assuming we, in the future, in the near future, we
So
negotiate.
would that be something, if we had to upgrade those pumps, would that be something they would be responsible for, I would assume?
We could talk to them about that, yeah. Right now, our engineering report that we got from our engineer says they don't recommend any improvements, but I know at a staff level, there's some concern.
Yeah, and I don't even know, and their age and I don't know how long they've been there, but.
Those ones were put in when the San Antonio was built.
Oh, so not that long ago.
What I would love to see, and this is probably outside the scope, it's probably outside the scope of what I should be talking about tonight. What I'd like to see is more storage. That's the way to mitigate pump is, if you have more storage, you can run the pumps to fill up the tanks and then let them gravity flow. So the answer is maybe not upgrading the pumps.
Well, which is less expensive or more efficient?
What's less expensive is upgrading the
Really?
pumps. Yeah, building
Yeah, 'cause
more,
building bigger storage is, okay.
yeah.
Well,
I'm not sure we have to go down that road, but,
can you check, because that was number 3 of the pumps, and we do have that problem, so we do need to figure that out before we bring this development online. So if
Yeah.
it needs to be storage, if it needs to be pumps, I mean,
Or a
we,
combination thereof.
right.
and it may be storage, because we may have, I mean, we still have the red tank, right? There's red that was having the problem with the liners, it's not a big leak, but maybe that's getting to be where we need to think about redoing, I don't know.
I don't know if that's the exact tank, but you're spot on. That is the zone.
Yeah,
That is the tank that would, they're in the pink zone. It's the red zone tank. Or a red zone tank that is providing the storage. So you're,
I thought the one we had the leak on was the one up by the high school.
by the high school, yeah.
But that's not, he's talking about a tank that's over at the Federal Center, aren't you?
no, the pump station's by the Federal Center.
The tank is the one at the high school?
I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's in the red zone.
Okay.
I'm-
The tank, I think it's the red zone tank by the high school, do you know, that's the one that had the leak, the leak.
The link.
That had
Freudian slip,
the
right?
liner,
Yeah.
liner with the link, I'll have too many L's.
Right.
And there's actually 2 tanks in the pink zone. Part of the requirement for the hospital being built was they needed to have a redundant water supply, so they built a full second tank by Red Rocks Community College, basically.
Mhm.
Okay.
Oh, got it.
So that would probably be, if that's feeding, that would probably be where the other one would most likely be. Wouldn't it? Be in a similar,
It would have to be similar elevation.
right, that's what I was gonna say,
Yeah,
is
that's-
that, I mean, and I know by Red Rocks, there's a lot of, or there appears to be a lot of open areas still up there. I don't know if that's still so, I don't go out there all the time.
Or if it's available
Correct.
to build a tank on.
Would either of those issues, the pumps versus storage, help address the number of pipes that are under 20 PSI?
Yeah.
Both, either. Okay.
I'd be a little too
So-
quick to give you yes
okay.
or no off the top of my
That's
head.
what I'm concerned about. It looks like we have a problem there. And I didn't know what the problem was. Okay, and I knew that the pumps were a problem, so it seems like this report maybe is a good start, but we're missing a piece here to say that this is all we need to do.
Actually, that's a correct summation. Otherwise, the only thing I would correct is that JVA didn't address it. It kind of goes back to my
Yeah.
technically they weren't incorrect in what they said,
Right.
but only upon me talking to staff, I understand there's an operational issue. So, so that's not on the table right now. They being the developer, when they came in, we did not address water. We just talked about sewer, but I can,
Okay.
I'll build that into the future conversations.
Okay, because there was a lot of under 20s. Why didn't that wasn't a problem?
Well,
You
what
guys
they
did-
looked at, I'm sorry, go ahead, Josh.
I'm sorry, I was having trouble with my computer. I had to switch over to my phone. So yeah, that the peak pump station is what would feed that zone over there. And it during irrigation season, the pumps do run at least two, if not three, the majority of a day. As far as storage is concerned, we have plenty of storage. That becomes a water quality issue if we are starting to store too much water. But between the zone demand and filling up the tanks, that then again have another zone pull out of them. So it's like a real fine balance between getting water in and getting water out. So a larger pump would actually move the water at a little better velocity to fill the tanks up a little quicker so they're not operating as often.
Right,
There you go.
okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Josh.
Yeah, so great, perfect. So if we can include those things so that their developer knows everything that we're looking at, I think that would be more complete.
Gotcha.
Okay,
Yeah, agreed.
okay. All right, so for Fed Center, it's evaluating the water and updating that section for the report, the risk analysis and legal analysis, and just letting them know that that's what we're doing. Okay. Anybody else have Fed Center things? And Director Garner, I'm not seeing even your face. What are we leaving off the table?
No, I just wanted to reserve an opportunity to talk about Alcar.
Okay. What do you got?
I just want, are we going to address at some other point, the email that Dylan received from the attorney for the developer?
I believe that was regarding Fossil Ridge. I did pass along the opportunity to talk, but developer to developer or developer to district, and I think that conversation is scheduled or did happen. But the email that's included in the board packet is regarding Fossil Ridge.
Ah, okay, I misread it then. Never mind.
I'm 1078 Elkhart, that's the one up above the fire station.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
The one that
right by the high
got
school.
started and then they.
Yeah, it's right
got
kind of
it.
by the Mexican restaurant.
Yeah, right behind the Mexican restaurant,
Right.
yeah. Which is pretty good, actually, we
Side note.
yeah, we actually, well, so close to my house, we actually go there for breakfast occasionally. But yeah, that said, at Dylan's maybe suggestion and prompting, their attorneys reached out to me. And is trying to set up in a meeting. We were actually gonna meet tomorrow, but it doesn't work for me because I'm gonna be out of town, so it's kind of put on, we'll schedule it soon. I'm not sure what's gonna come of that, but it was just like, there was obviously nowhere to go with this. So
Yeah,
it's
because
actually.
they just don't want to pay the fees to upgrade the line.
bottom
Or
line.
their tap fees, or the review fees, or.
Bottom line, so I'm not sure what I'm gonna tell them that's different, but.
Yeah.
I've agreed to meet with them.
Yeah,
Thank
I mean,
you.
just be factual.
Right, yeah, at the end of the day.
All right, that's all I have for engineering.
Okay.
Anybody else? Okay. Good, all right. Thank you, Mr. Yost. I guess we can move on to director's matters and the manager search update. What's going on with that? Let me start because I couldn't find any resumes. It looked like there was more supposedly coming in. We got one email from.
The person that was sending it to all of us.
Yes, and I didn't see anything after that, and I don't see anything period in the folder.
We received initially about a dozen, I don't remember the exact number.
Yeah.
I shared all of those with the
Yeah.
entire board. I wasn't aware of anything coming in after that.
Okay,
And our concern is, in summary, to reinvent the wheel here, is the board basically wasn't satisfied with the applications that we had received.
Okay.
I myself am not in complete agreement with that, but I'm willing to go with the group. But my emphasis has been to place, or my concern has been to place less emphasis on the engineering aspect of the position and kind of move it more towards just a basic manager, district manager's position. And with that in the back of my mind, I felt some of the candidates would have been acceptable. But I'm not going to beat that dead horse. We want to move forward. As you may have noticed, I passed out a potential professional search service contact information earlier in the meeting. I'm not married to that. It's just an idea. I think Mike had a couple of ideas about professional search, and we're going to adopt that posture in filling this position. Does that sound about right?
That's good summation. We had I think a constructive phone conversation last week, and I did mention that, and then there was an email exchange with Karen and Roger and me, and I said, well, I have more thoughts that I want to encapsulate in an email. So I am in that. That was a great summation, Roger. One of the things that go through my mind is one way or another we can handle engineering without making that the priority for selecting a project manager. I mean manager, and I think I've already let you guys know that that's my opinion. But we can certainly talk about that more. But that said, what does a district manager really do? And right now, the district is very well run without a district manager, or without a revolving door as district manager. What does a board member, a district manager do? A district manager, to a large extent, takes the bullets and arrows from the board, to be brutally blunt. So you need a figure that is maybe not, it's not so as important. Is their technical knowledge? If you look back at our most recent example, Jeff Tyus, who was very knowledgeable about water and wastewater systems. You'd be lucky to find somebody that knowledgeable again, but that may not be important. What I observed in the short time there was an overlap is what Jeff maybe was not great at is public communication, presentation, and God bless him. I hope he landed in a spot more suited to where his technical knowledge is more applicable, and his lack of public communication skills doesn't apply. So to a large extent, a district manager needs to present to the public and also present well to the board. And filter those things back and forth.
If we were to lean that way, go ahead.
I'd kind of like to not rehash all of the qualifications for a director and go down this road. Because I've already heard 3 people mention a recruiter. So, and it seems like we are struggling. So I'd kind of just like to push that and see what does everybody think about that? Who has more experience in looking for what we need? I will argue all day long with you about we need an engineer. We do fine maybe without the district manager. We couldn't do this without you. That was my argument for a long time. And so I'd like to see what's out there. Director Garner did do research and he found a firm that specializes here. So he sent, and I don't know if you sent that around to everybody. I sent it around again today. Director Wendell sent one around today, but what does everybody think about moving in this vein?
That's kind of how I opened this. I wanted to get a sense of where we wanted to go.
Yeah. And
it sounds like this is the direction in general. So maybe at this point decide on a professional search firm to give that a shot.
Well, I'm fine with that. I guess I have a couple thoughts. One, if customary is 25, 30%, the guy at 33%, Again, me, Mr. Accountant, I'm apt to say, you know what, we'll do it at 25%. We're not gonna give you 33%. My thinking. My second thought is if we're not, say if in the part of the person doesn't have necessarily all the engineering requirements, my personal feeling, I would probably downgrade the salary rather than where we really upgraded the salary. To me, we upgraded it to more pay for an engineer, and if we're not getting an engineer, I don't wanna pay Joe Schmuck manager who makes $80,000 a year, $150,000 to be Joe Schmuck manager at twice his salary. My personal opinion. So I don't know if at this point, if we would be willing to revamp that.
What about leaving that option open and just saying the two? I don't know that there was. I'd have to relook at it. I know we changed the job title for. I don't remember how many engineering duties we added to the job description. So I'd have to relook at that, but we can put one out there for an engineer manager with the salary, and let them know that a good manager without the engineering, we'll have to figure that problem out separately. But we can just do those two and see what they can.
Yeah, that's, I don't know what you guys think about that, but that's my thinking.
Yes, I think I agree. That's what we did. Absolutely. Bumped it up for an engineer. Cause that should be the highest salary.
I mean, I will tell you, I do really appreciate Mike's view on things. To me, it gives me a clear, concise, someone that's done it makes me feel good about that. Whereas to me, if someone is the face, if they're and I'm not saying that's not important, but if they're more of just a communicator and watching over things, but they're not necessarily the backbone of stuff happening, I don't want to pay them a huge amount of money to basically provide a smiling face. I mean, a lot of people can provide a smiling, and I'm not saying that to diminish someone's ability. I'm just saying engineers have a lot more value here at the water board than a manager probably does. Although I don't want, I want the manager to be obviously adept at their duties and be able to take care of the employees and whatnot. At the same time, I just think the two skill levels are at different salaries. I
would offer one comment on that Ty, I think you're agreed. I think you're spot on. I agree. Of course, Nelson, engineers bring more to the table.
You guys are annoying. You guys are annoying, but I like your education.
Yeah. No, that was supposed to be self-deprecating humor. Of course, engineers are working hard, right? No, I would amend that to say if somebody comes to the table with maybe an MBA, and I know we have one or more that have that, or an MPA, a Master's in Public Administration. This is often the advanced. The postgraduate education and the skill set I see where city managers who oversee a lot of engineering, or public works directors that are often not engineers, but they do have advanced degrees and they've been around construction engineering their whole career. So I would say maybe if you don't find anybody, if you don't find an engineer you like, and they are irritating these. I supervise.
I'm just saying, they're just very detailed. See,
it's brutal.
No, and that's good. That, you know what? They need to be for their profession. We need that. But I'm just saying, if that's not what this is, I don't want to pay for I don't want to pay for a different skill set way more than what that skill set is valued at currently, is all I'm saying.
Can I ask you this? Mike's been invaluable. But if we're surrounded with all of these firms that we're considering to do our engineering, eventually we'll have to live without Mike. He's not going to stay here forever.
Right.
So if we had a solid manager in place that relied on these engineering firms that we're contracting with, wouldn't that be sufficient?
No.
So downgrade this position to district manager, lower the wage, make it the highest wage in the organization. I don't know where everybody's at the moment, whatever it is, $110,000 a year. And go with a solid manager that we can rely on for the next 5 years or so.
It sounds wonderful, but I think Director Hooks hit it when he said if the backbone, this is the backbone of the district, do we want that to be a contract, especially a contract in multiple pieces? I really think that this is.
See, I just like over the last couple months, I like the continuity that's brought personally, because I had not seen that. But I like the continuity of it.
Yeah.
I do.
I agree. I think it's been wonderful. So thank you very much for being here. So can we at least keep it on the table that that's what we were looking for? Do you want to add a second, and we can do a second sort of
What if we say that, what if we make the salary range, rechange it?
Yeah,
And say whatever, I don't know what we went up to, but say 110 to 160. And it literally is dependent upon their skill set, because like when we hire, I mean, if I hire in a CAD person, I'll just use that as an example.
yeah,
And I've got a guy that's done it for 15 years, I might be willing to pay him 80, 90, $100,000 a year if he's good. If someone's 3 years out of school, I don't want to pay him that. I mean, he might think he worth that,
Yeah.
but he might be a $65,000, $60,000 employee start, you know what I'm saying? I mean, and it's not that they can say they have the same skill set, but they don't.
right.
They don't.
I think we tried that the first time and it just didn't work. So that's why we narrowed it and said, because we left it, it was a big, when we advertised for Mr. Tyus.
Anyway, I'm just throwing all my thoughts out there.
Yeah.
Well, I would like to make a motion to proceed with one of, I'm not ready for a motion. I'd like to go ahead and proceed with one of these recruiting firms and let them,
Do we only want one, or can we use multiples?
just one. Let's just do one.
Okay,
I don't think we
I
can
would
have-
agree with
yeah.
that, yeah,
Okay.
based on my experience.
okay.
Yeah. All right, which one was the 33% that you were objecting to, Director? Was
Well,
that Garner's?
the one was 25, the one that you sent from Dave,
Okay,
and then his was 33,
okay.
33.3 to be exact.
But
I'm trying to be like an engineer.
33.3.
Yeah, I love it. And I think I made the offhand remark as I walked in that it was 25 to 30% is what I've seen in the
Right.
past.
Okay,
I may need Dylan's input on this particular contractor in that I'm associated with a nonprofit organization I prefer not to mention here publicly. And this headhunting firm, the director of that firm is on the board of directors
okay.
for that nonprofit. So I don't know if that presents a conflict or not, but I need to
Well,
make
thank
that
you for
covered.
actually telling us.
Roger, Roger, do you receive any compensation in your role with that nonprofit?
Yes, I do.
Does that other person receive financial compensation as their role?
None.
Okay, I think that probably does constitute a technical conflict that you need to disclose. It doesn't prevent you from participating in this, but separately I can go over the disclosure obligations for you. It's essentially a written document that's filed with the state. If you go with that entity.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm not completely sold on this firm. It's just something I brought to the table. If the board is uncomfortable with it, we can go with the other firm.
I do like the other firm. Director Garner, can you speak to that? It sounds like that they are cheaper and they are specialized.
Well, I intentionally stayed out of this because my perception was that Todd didn't want to spend even the 25%, and I appreciate that. So I backed off. I wouldn't want to make a judgment call at this point because Roger, is there a physical document from this company that's available to the board?
Just a copy of an email I've shared just with their website information.
Okay, I've not seen that. I'll be back late Thursday evening. So as of, Friday morning, I can dig into this, but I
can forward you the contact information.
okay.
It was just a proposal or an idea.
Yeah, I mean, you make a compelling argument that maybe we don't need an engineer. It doesn't move me from my position that we have suffered in the past by either having someone with an engineering skill base who couldn't communicate successfully with us, or somebody who was not particularly well versed in engineering, going back a few more years, but had a decent relationship with the board, for what I could tell. So I'm torn. I deliberately, when I read the offer from Hunter Crown, is that the name? I've forgotten. And whatever the offer that I received before, I would want to do some more research on that firm. I did not do due diligence to talk to the references that were offered. I'd want to do that before I spoke favorably about them. I was just bringing to the board that information of a company that does work. Primarily, they focus in the industrial sector, but certainly it's a secondary skill.
Okay, so you are saying you are not comfortable with going ahead with your firm either. I'm hesitant to put this off for another month of not doing anything. I'd like to get going with somebody.
Well, okay, is it unheard of? I mean, not to be stupid, is it unheard of to use two firms? Is that because they would come up with the same person, or just
It
say,
would
hey,
probably-
whoever comes up? Go
It
ahead.
would probably be contrary to their contractual requirements.
Okay, I was just curious. I don't know. I've never.
They
used
would
that,
probably have
so-
some proprietary information, well, don't put it right, yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Okay, I'm just not versed in that, so I didn't know.
I was listening to this conversation here.
Yeah. Karen, Director Morgan, I guess I could be persuaded. I am persuaded that, you see, I'm just trying to hang on to Mike as long as possible is what I'm honestly trying to do here. Sorry, Mike.
Which I can appreciate has been a gem.
Well, I'll commit to this, I'll hang around until you get the engineering figured out. Okay. So I too am motivated to that, but I would say, Karen, and to all of you, it's way more important we get the right fit than it is to have this figured out in a month.
Sure.
It would be so, I'm sorry, it would be just being here, it would be so detrimental to have somebody that's not a good fit.
Right.
To a staff that's operating at a high level, a lot of trust in each other. They need really very little management. I guess I'll leave it there. Just,
Yeah.
let's make the right pick, and let's not. Oh, we gotta check, this is on our to-do list. Let's find the right fit so we can cross it off our to-do list.
Well, I'm not suggesting we rush making the pick. I'm rushing to find somebody. I would like, I would like to.
Get a firm in service.
Yeah, I would like to start that.
Perfect.
I have no problem going with the firm that Director Garner found and getting that process started. What do y'all think?
I'm okay. I know enough about it to be dangerous, so if you guys are in, I'm in.
Okay. Are you comfortable with that, Director Garner?
I am. I'd want to review the particulars of the offer and requirements down the road. Should somebody else come to us outside of the company, the recruiters, make sure we're not obligated financially to them. If somebody just happens to walk through the door and hands over a resume and they're perfect.
Well, that's what I was mentioned before, because the way I read the one thing, it kind of implied that anybody who showed up, they would be paid for, and I don't agree with that. I mean, if John Smith or Jane Doe walks through that door and they're our perfect candidate, and they had nothing to do with the recruiter, I certainly don't want to pay them.
Yeah.
Well, here would be the question to that, is that makes sense, you don't want to pay, but on the other hand, if they went to all that effort to do their work and we ended up getting somebody else, do they get any sort of payment at all?
Well, to me, it's like a risk. It's like, say you're a realtor, right? And you take on a listing and you advertise it and you do open houses and you spend time and you put it on the internet and if it doesn't sell, guess who bears the risk?
Okay,
That seems fair. Well, can you, look into that and, make sure the contract is set, but we can approve that, service provider pending, legal review.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I will do that, commit to do that Friday morning and I'll work with Dylan, make sure we are protected. And I
Do we have a
shared-
copy of their proposal or their contract, or do we need to get that?
I thought it was in the email, but
Oh, I probably didn't send it to you too, Dylan. I thought it went out before, so I will send that now.
Okay, thank you.
I think I found that email, Karen, in my outbox, just sitting there, and for some reason it didn't go.
Okay, fantastic. All right, so is that a motion? I will move to do hire this recruiter pending legal review.
I will second that.
Second by Director Hooks. All in favor?
Discussion.
Discussion, anything
Um,
else?
Does that mean that if somebody did walk through the door, or we receive any more applicants through email, that they're to be ignored at this time? Or how-
No.
Because we're not actively advertising for the position right now.
Yeah,
And if I happen to receive a resume, I share it.
Legally, we need to change if we want to lower the salary. Do we need to do that on whatever things we're advertising?
well, if you're still advertising, you probably should, but I don't think you're still advertising. We're still advertising.
We're not anymore.
We'll have to check.
Your job
yeah.
posting needs to include a salary range within which you reasonably expect actually to hire.
That makes sense.
I've got you, Dave. I don't think we've got anybody else.
Oh, yeah, it looks like they. No, Sam's still there, so, but I don't know what happened to them.
Somebody
Yeah.
kicked the plug.
Well, yeah. I don't have a. I just want to be careful we dot all i's and cross all t's here with Hunter Crown or Crown Hunter. I can't remember the name of it. I'm very limited here in London. I don't have access to all my files. I'm just working from a shoestring.
That sounds like the right amount of work to be doing when you're in London.
Yeah, well, I didn't. I leave my current location at 8:30 tomorrow morning. I'm going to have a short night.
All right, are you able to hear us now?
Yes,
Yeah.
we are.
All right.
Okay.
Hot is
We
bad.
We can't see you, but we can hear you.
All right, camera should be coming on.
There you go. Somebody kicked the plug, huh?
I'm to somebody, unfortunately.
So we were talking, I don't tell me what you have. You're right, we should address whether or not we can take down our things if somebody else is doing it for us, but why
Yeah,
are we
that's-
not advertising anywhere?
Well, I don't know if we still are or not. I don't know how long the AWA and SDA and Indeed postings last. I need Jesse's help to get into them. I've had trouble with that. And just
Okay.
see when.
Well,
they
can we just
terminate.
ask him to lower the base? What do we want to move it down to? 110?
110's fine.
110 to what, 140?
160?
Oh, on the current postings, you wanna lower the base?
Well, yeah, I thought we did, just so that in case if
Yeah,
looking at
that's
a
fine.
management person comes along that we're interested in,
Okay,
that we have the ability to not pay an engineer's salary to just a manager.
okay,
Yeah, that's a good point.
that's fine. And we never got them posted on any of the engineering sites. that we asked for last time.
Correct, and that's, like I said, that's on me.
Yeah,
I was a little
okay.
unsure of the direction, so I didn't.
Well,
I
yeah,
didn't.
I thought we had direction, but I think this looks like. But no, that's a good reason to just get this going forward with the recruiter, and we can take all of these uncertainties off the table and have somebody who's professionally doing it.
So we're in agreement to eliminate the AWASD and Indeed advertising,
Or let it run out,
let it run out.
maybe. I'm sorry, I'm interjecting just, but I do think you can continue to advertise. And you can continue, Dylan, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you can continue to receive and accept applications from whatever source. And if you hire one of them that's not through the recruiter, you don't owe the recruiter anything. It's if and when, and only if and when they find somebody that you agree to hire because they brought them to the table.
I agree.
That's typically the way it works, but it's going to depend on the contract that you sign with the recruiter.
Right, well, I mean, like, I guess I use real estate, it's like a procuring cause.
Right.
Who's actually the procuring cause? If they had nothing to do with it, I don't know why we'd want to pay them, but maybe.
It's just like a lawyer that take a case on contingent, right?
Correct,
Yeah.
it
So-
is.
If it doesn't, if the contract does not, if we can't get a contract to look like that, then bring it back and we are not we need that clause in there is what it sounds like we are stipulating, so
But
Yep.
that is fine.
is there any value in continuing this advertising? It's been running for 2 months and
How much is it costing?
I have no idea.
Probably not a lot.
Probably not a lot, if anything.
I
Okay.
would, honestly, I would keep doing,
Okay.
but I'm gonna go back to the person that emailed us all. Did we actually get a
I
resume from
did
them
not get
or
a
not?
resume.
After like their email, they just went ghost?
And by the way, the 12 applicants that we did look over,
Yeah.
seriously, I did send each of them an email thanking them, and I just advised them we're expanding the search. It hasn't ended. So
Okay,
we haven't
Thank
left
you.
anybody in the dark.
Thank you for doing that.
And if you do, and I'm sorry that, I didn't intentionally mean to do it, but I did end up slow playing advertising with some of the other, professional organizations. So I will do that if, again, if that ball got dropped, that's on me, Karen. I did kind of slow play that because I heard maybe some different ideas from the board.
But we'll go with 110 to 160 per year.
Yeah, if you want to do that, and if
I
you
don't-
want me to
I'm sorry, if it's involving. Fine, yeah, go ahead, 110 to 160, fine, and you're gonna leave them up there,
Okay.
fine,
Okay.
okay.
So update the ads to 110 to 160.
Please.
And leave the current ads in place.
Yes.
Okay. All right, then all in favor of the motion for the recruiter?
Aye,
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous
and you put
approval,
in there the stipulation, whatever.
stipulated with,
Yeah.
it needs to be not exclusive,
Correct.
perfect.
okay,
Sam, you'll let
Good.
Jesse know, and if he could let me know if the 3 are still active. Thank you.
excellent. All right, so moving on, next thing is the capital improvement fee recommendation. Letting you know that Director Wickman and I have met and worked with our financial advisor here, Doug, and we have decided, I think we have decided, did you decide? We had a decision, I thought, and then we're thinking still. I'm going to send you what I think is our latest iteration of suggestions for the capital improvement fee, where we need to go. I think at this point I am at suggesting that it be wrapped into the existing capital reserve rate, which is how we do things. And he's got some suggested breakouts for that. So he's got that already. I will email that to you all so that you can look. And if you've got any suggestions, you can bring them up so that in the rate hearing, we will have a solid recommendation to
Right.
go forward with.
Okay.
All right, and then we have the supermajority bylaw.
As you know, we've been talking about last few months to kind of fill in that, potential loophole. I sent something out, to everybody earlier in the month or earlier in the week. I'm not actually sure if he got it. There's some question as to whether I can type in email addresses correctly. So it didn't end up getting on the agenda as was originally intended. But anyway, we've, we talked about this before, and so the last meeting, we just went ahead and tabled it. So, what I did is try to keep it simpler. There's some question as to how many words can I make it complicated? So, reduce it down to kind of a bare minimum. And right now, there are basically two options. They basically do the same thing. It's just a wordsmithing sort of thing. Both of the options are in the red print.
So we're essentially just requiring an 80% rather than a 60% is what we're saying for the supermajority. Because if you need 4, there's only 4, it's actually 100, but if 4 out of 5, you're just saying you need 80%.
Well, the loophole was to solve the possibility of somebody trying to thwart the supermajority by coming around and changing the bylaws to take it back down to a majority, and then therefore you don't have a supermajority. So that was a loophole. So this is just saying, removing that loophole. That if you try to change the bylaws to go back to a simple majority, changing the bylaws for that particular issue would require a supermajority as well. So
And this is for the extraterritorial.
right, yeah, it doesn't include anything else. So some question as to whether you want to do that with all the bylaws, and it's like, no, this is just a supermajority situation, just closing that loophole.
Why do we need a supermajority for anything?
Well, if it's important enough, we need to give it the emphasis that it deserves. It's like, why do we have 2/3 to amend the Constitution? There's all sorts of supermajority requirements in life. And it's a recognition of the fact that some issues are routine, and routine is a majority, 51%. Some things are extraordinary. And this one is extraterritorial, is something extraordinary for us. And we want to give it the importance that it deserves. And so this is the one thing that's different than all the other things that we do. And therefore we want to give it, we want to make sure it truly represents, the will of the people, that it can't be some sort of casual thing or something like that. So, and by the way, I realize you don't want to do supermajority, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm certainly opposed to development, especially outside of the district boundaries. It just seems like this is not democratic and doesn't represent the will of the people, our constituents and the voters. And if a simple majority works for everything else, why would this be any different?
It doesn't work for everything else. I mean, there's all sorts of scenarios in life where you go for more than just a majority. Everything is not decided on a majority. You have different levels. And you have to determine what those levels are.
So again, this is not a supermajority conversation because we have already in place that.
Right.
This is the loophole conversation.
Right.
So.
And that illustrates how complex and irregular this is.
Do you have a preferred
Between the two options?
Or is there a motion for one of these two from anybody?
They say the same thing, so no, it's a matter of whichever wording you like better.
I haven't seen either text, so I can't vote on this.
Can you read it from here, Dave?
5,000 miles away. No, I can't.
Well, here's my question. When I sent it out for everybody, it didn't end up in the agenda. And that's because I didn't send it to the agenda person. But I thought it went out to all the rest of the board. But of course, I don't know. Did you all get, are you seeing this for the first time? Well, I mean, it's not the first time, but I mean,
it doesn't appear that it went to the board. It looks like it went to me and Jesse, and I think the other 2 email addresses are mistyped.
Yeah, that was the problem. mistyped the email addresses. But again, it comes back to, it's nothing new, we've just talked about it. And by the way, Dave, if you want, I can read both of them. It's one sentence, and the difference is between sentence one or sentence two.
If you want me to vote, I have to know what I'm voting on.
Okay, all right. Anyway, as you know, it goes right there in the middle of that particular bylaw. So it's the section 8 conduct of business voting requirements. So as you know, it says in majority, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, option number 1 is this words. Any action taken, quote, in parentheses, in any form to terminate, amend, or in any manner emasculate the foregoing requirement with regard to the provisions of extraterritorial services shall necessitate authorization by a vote of not less than 4 of the 5 members then comprising the board. That's option 1. Option 2 is a little bit shorter. Any action of the board which shall have the effect of establishing, increasing, or expanding extraterritorial service or changing this specific provision in any way shall require an affirmative vote of 4 directors. So actually that second one is kind of cleaner and simpler, a little less legalese, more, what do you call it, plain language. But they both say the same thing.
Hey, Dave, I just emailed this to your Green Mountain and your Comcast email.
Thank you. I'll see if my phone works at the cost of $20 a page or something. It's crazy. I would prefer number 2 if I were going to make a choice, but I really appreciate Roger's argument. As I said last month, I'm a kind of a will of the people kind of guy, and if 51% of our population said change it, I don't think a super majority ought to stand in the way of the majority of the population, but I understand the reason. And is this number 2? Is this Larry's language or your own creation, Dave?
It came from Larry.
Okay, I mean, I've talked to him at length about this, and I understand the perspective, and I appreciate it, and it's very wise work. I'm just very conflicted about it, which is very unlike me.
Roger, what do you think? Anything?
You know, well, doesn't it already say we need a super majority anyway? We're just cleaning up the language.
Yes.
I mean, if it
Well,
already exists.
It adds an additional layer. So it's intended to prevent modification of the bylaws to evade the existing 4-member requirement. So it's not turtles all the way down, but it's 2 turtles.
Right. Well, I guess in some respect, I mean, I agree that a simple majority is a good thing. I also think that, I guess when you're changing bylaws in general, it shouldn't just be a random, to me, it is kind of like the Constitution. I mean, it, I guess, deserves a slightly more thought, although either way, I mean, both ways, I think presents the, you know, whether you get 3 or 4 directors to do it, I mean, you need more than half the people to say it's okay, one way or the other, so. I don't know, I guess kind of like Dave, I feel like I'm in the middle, it doesn't. To me, it's, if it already exists, there's no reason to not clean it up. If it doesn't exist, would I probably vote for it? Probably not. So if it's just cleaning it up, I'm for it. If it's something, a new addition, then I'd probably be against it.
Well, you
Yeah,
already
I think
voted for the new addition.
I'd make a motion that we remove it from the bylaws.
All right,
Do I have a second?
second? There's no second, motion failed. Is there a motion to take up one of these options?
I would move for option 2.
Is there a second? Both motions fail.
See, I move for option number 1.
A second? All right,
What to do?
I think that is the end of this one.
Okay, well, anyway, the supermajority would still be in there, but
We'll still
just,
be in there.
but just be aware that there's a loophole that somebody could try to close one of these days. So,
Dave, I'd like to ask you a question. What area left around our borders of our district are so ripe for development that some developer is going to spend a ton of money to try to get added board members? Where's this going to come from? I just don't find it practical. That's my problem. I appreciate the legalese, but I just don't see it as a practical activity.
well, I think the current issue that's out there is this Cardell's trying to get into, well, not Fossil Ridge, what do they call it? Indigo. And so I think that's probably where the action might come out of. Because, right now, Cardell's trying to get the city to do this new thing instead of they tried to do a metro district. And now they're trying to do this reimbursement area.
Yeah.
Cardell's trying to do something out there in Rudy Valley.
And
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I just think that we're the straw man here and it's not real.
it will be, but what is real is this is about the 10th time we've discussed this. So I understand, but there's no motion on the table.
So
So
we
if,
move on to
can we move on
next
to
item.
legal?
Sure.
I apologize. We are on legal matters, Fossil Ridge update.
So the non-privileged portion of this is going to be relatively brief. The hearing remains scheduled for October 10th, and I have been working with counsel for Solterra and Fossil Ridge to prepare a statement of stipulated facts, which is essentially this document dated such and such is a true and correct copy is authenticated. These events happened in this order. It's intended to streamline the hearing process so that we can actually get it accomplished in a single day, which since there's 3 attorneys and 3 parties and lots of people involved, each party has the opportunity to not stipulate to a particular fact. So that's going to be, that's going to continue to be a process. Likewise, I will be preparing our witness and exhibit list for the hearing. I have not received Solterra's witness and exhibit list. I have received a preliminary list from Fossil Ridge. The knowledgeable people are the same. So we're all going to be relying pretty much on the same witnesses and pretty much on the same exhibits. I also promulgated some written discovery requests on Solterra, asking them to admit or deny certain statements, the truth of them, as well as to provide me the documentary and evidentiary basis for their responses and the identities and capacity of those people responsible for responding. I have not gotten those responses back yet. I probably will get them next week or a bit later. That's the non-privileged section. I can either go on into general legal and discuss all of the other matters that I have, or we can go into the executive session now. I don't care.
Executive session would be nice.
Okay.
I would make a motion that we move to go into executive session for legal advice.
Director Hooks makes a motion.
I'll
Second.
second that.
Director Gardner seconds. All in favor?
I
All right.
Unanimous approval.
Right. As the district's attorney, it is my opinion that the discussion of the matter announced in the motion to go into executive session constitutes a privileged attorney-client communication. I'm therefore recommending that no further record be kept until the executive session has been concluded, and I'm requesting that the recording be ended at 8:04. Do we have anybody in the waiting room? No.
Hope not.
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
Oh, I can't see the waiting room.
there's still
All
two
right, we
people
are
there.
set.
All right. The time is now 9:24 and we have resumed the recording because the attorney-client communication is finished. The executive session has been concluded. The participants in the executive session were the board of directors, myself, general counsel for the district, and attorney Jim Beckworth, especially retained counsel for consultation regarding the ravine matter. For the record, if any person who participated in the executive session believes that any substantial discussion of any matters not included in the motion to go into the executive session occurred, or that any improper action occurred during the executive session in violation of the open meetings law, I would ask that you state your concerns for the record. Seeing none, the next agenda item is executive session for attorney-client legal advice regarding Fossil Ridge.
I move to go into executive session for Fossil Ridge legal advice.
I'll second that.
Director Wendell, second. All in favor?
I,
Unanimous approval.
As the district's attorney, I'm recommending that the recording be turned off at this point because the executive session concerns attorney-client privilege communication. The time is now 9:25. Time is now 9:42, and the attorney-client communication is finished, and we have resumed the recording. The executive session has been concluded. The participants in the executive session were the board of directors and myself, general counsel for the district. If anybody thinks we talked about things we shouldn't have talked about or did anything we shouldn't have done, tell me now. Nope.
No.
Moving on. I have one general legal matter. Budget season is upon you, and you need to, if you have not already, designate a budget officer who will prepare the budget and present it to you before October 15th, which is your next board meeting is within that timeline. So historically, the district manager has been your budget officer, but I think Doug has actually done the heavy lifting on the preparation of the budget. So just want to put that on your radar.
Is that a motion, a formal motion?
No, it's just instruction.
Okay, I think that is on his radar.
so I guess I'll make a motion that we, on the Fossil Ridge situation, that we, at
And
this point, we still, go ahead, Dylan.
if you don't have to take any action on that.
Oh, we don't, because we've already previously done it.
Well, I've received my instructions and no, no formal action of the board is
Oh,
occurring.
okay. I thought
So-
we had to say it again. Okay.
No, I'll have the conversation that you've asked me to have. But yeah, the board's not taking any action.
Well, then, should I make a motion about Doug?
No, you don't need to do that either. You just
Okay.
need to instruct him that he is to prepare and present the budget.
So do we wanna, so I would just, I guess, like to say that we would like Doug to go ahead and present the budget to us when that appointed time comes.
October, is it?
I think October is
next
initially,
meeting.
yes.
Yep. He
Okay.
needs to submit it to you in writing before the 15th.
Okay,
Would you like to email him about that?
I can.
You guys are lucky. You don't impose a mill levy, so you don't have to deal with all of the issues that all of the taxing entities are going to be dealing with Proposition HH and Senate Bill 303.
God, yes.
Huge.
Okay,
All right. But that is not the rates hearing will be in November based on the budget hearing.
Yep.
Right, we don't need to post a notice for that yet.
No, although the rates and fees hearing needs to be noticed 30 days or more in advance of it occurring, and the October meeting is going to be fewer than 30 days. So you should also instruct staff to notice the rates and fees hearing before the October meeting.
Okay, so we can put that notice now for the November.
Yep.
All right. Thank you for checking. And so we did get a good start on the cap reserve rate. So we have recommendations on that, and we already have our infrastructure list. So that's a lot of the spending. So hopefully half the job is done there. Okay, anything else, Dylan?
Not for me.
Great. New business. I had a couple things just to let you know that I didn't talk about in engineering. I don't think I will bring back, but we had last time we discussed the priority listing for the capital improvement projects. An engineer made mention of that, and I just wanted to make sure you heard that I met with Sam and Josh, and they are doing a fantastic job of moving that along. There had been a stall and some miscommunications on where the files were, and I still need a copy of that file, but I want to make sure that we know that they are working on it and doing well. Also, I am going to continue following up with Mike. They asked about it at the last meeting, the ADU study and a letter for the policy to go to city council. If anybody had listened to the planning commission meeting week or two ago now, they talked about ADUs and they are unhappy with the way water and sewer districts have ADU policies. So they're going around and trying to figure out, well, if an ADU tap fee is 20% of the cost of a building, why don't we just let them make bigger buildings? So therefore it's less of a cost. That's the kind of things that they are doing. So they're trying to increase. So luckily, our former director Peters, Kathy Kentner's got experiences on the boards on that planning commission. So they're bringing up some good points, but I'm continuing to work with Mike on that. And I don't know if we will be able to bring that forward at the next meeting or not, but there's the progress. Same thing on the incremental tap fee. We're getting all those pieces together, and I don't know if it'll be done for the next meeting or not. Hope we'll see. Progress, but not finished. That's where I am. So maybe nothing new for next month. Anybody else have any things? You look puzzled because it's late or because I didn't make sense.
Well, I was gonna say, I shot my watch today, so I guess I have nothing else to do.
Okay, excellent. Director Garner, anything from you?
Nope, I'm done.
Aren't we all? Motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Director Hooks? Discussion? Second?
Second.
Director Wendell seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Director Wickman abstain? All unanimous approval.
Mr. Go Along, sure, of course.
Meeting adjourned at 9:50.
Right,
Thank you, everyone.
thank you.